Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda Fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the Devil King and got harem? Part 1. Huge shout out to Spike for this story. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Naruto Uzumaki was almost bouncing at the ceiling. Today was the day he would receive his evil pieces for his peerage. His 1-year older cousin Ria's Gremory had already gotten hers and even had her queen already. Naruto of course wanted his own peerage too, not to mention he needed them for his goals. Naruto was the son of Minato Phoenix and Kushina Gremory, both were minor clan members, and had decided to take the name Uzumaki after it was determined that Naruto had a modified version of the Phoenix healing, unlike normal Phoenix. Naruto rebirthed through wind instead of fire. He also was extremely powerful in using magic and was, despite his young age, the strongest wind magic user among devils. Naruto's parents hoped that he would eventually be able to establish the Uzumaki family as one of the pillars by filling an empty spot. Though for that to happen Naruto would need to become powerful and influential. His parents already were negotiating about having him marry Ravel Phoenix, Ria's Gremory and Sona Citri. Given that his only serious contenders were Diodora Astaroth and Zephyr Glaciolabolas, his chances were quite good. Zephyr had already lost his chance on marrying Sona due to accepting and losing her chess challenge, and neither Gremory nor Phoenix were close to the Glaciolabolas clan. With the exception of the friendship between Falbium and Surziches. Diodora was another matter. Given the close relationship between Surziches and Ajuka, he could very well become Ria's fiancé. You can come in now, Naruto-kun. Naruto perked up at seeing Ajuka Beelzebub standing before him. He quickly stood up and followed the Satan into his laboratory. Sitting on a table was a case with chess figures that were glowing in a pale dark light. Following Ajuka's instruction, Naruto laid down on the floor an Amagi cycle which Ajuka would use to integrate the king piece into him. Naruto listened a bit to Ajuka's words but was more fascinated with watching the chess piece enter his chest. As soon as the ritual was over, Naruto could instantly feel the 15 mental connections to the remaining evil pieces. The mental link certainly explained to Naruto why rogue devils often killed their masters before fleeing. He was quite sure that he would be able to feel his pieces even on the other side of the world. Thanking Ajuka, he slowly left the Satan's castle and returned to his home. He still had some lessons in water magic today. Naruto-kun catch. Naruto jumped high to catch the ball thrown by Rias. He and his cousin were playing a game against Akeno and Sona. The head Gremory maid Grafia and Ria's new rook Kaneko were watching from the side. Naruto was now 13 years old. There had been some things happening over the years. Rias gained 2 more peerage members in Kaneko and Gasper. Sona also had already a few peerage members. He himself had not yet started collecting, but he had gotten what he looked for recently, so he would begin soon. On another matter, he was now the fiancé to Ravel and Sona. He was also the fiancé to the Satan Seraphol Leviathan. The cosplay Satan said something about losing her virginity together with Sotan. For some strange reason Sona tried to strangle her sister, go figure. One more thing that happened was that Naruto's father Minato had disappeared on a secret mission from the Satans. His mother and he took it hard of course, but his death was still unconfirmed, so they still had some hope left. Saying goodbye to his friends for the day, he teleported to his room in his manor. Inside his room was a very intricate magical circle set up. He started to chant a very long and complicated spell. Every now and then he was forced to stop his chant to do something like sacrificing some of his blood or burning a certain mix of ingredients. Finally he came to the last bit. O great dead apostle ancestor Kishir Zelrich Schweinberg. Hear my call. I want to make a pact with you. Please appear before me so that we may speak about the terms of the contract. After Naruto said those words, the room was first silent before all the candles suddenly turned purple. The magical circle reacted and glowed so strong that Naruto was forced to close his eyes. When he opened them again, standing before him was a man with a tall broad stature and a mad gleam in his eyes. Curious, it was quite a while since I was summoned by someone from this type of universe. Please correct me if I am wrong, but is your name Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto was confused at how the kaleidoscope mage knew his name, but nodded at the question. At his nod Zelrich let out a hearty laugh. Apparently amused by something. So, you are a devil, right? What is your reason for summoning me? Naruto gathered his courage again. I wish to look for people that can join my peerage. For this purpose I want to search for them in other worlds. I summoned you to grant me passage there, and in exchange I will fulfill any request for you, as long as it is not against my morals. Zelrich mustered the boy again. Such a request was not something he expected, but he could easily fulfill that wish. There was also the fact that he could only enter this dimension when summoned due to Office and Great Red holding guard in the dimensional gap. Very well. I will fulfill your wish. In exchange I have here a list of things I want you to collect for me. I will allow you to search for 1 peerage member per object. Simply place the object on the circle and use some magic. Then you will be teleported to a world. Here is an object that will help you find compatible people. After you made them into devils, simply press the button and you will reappear in your room with a new devil. Naruto looked the strange machine over. It had a screen on top which was currently off, and at the side was a button. Bound to Zelrich, he watched the vampire disappear again. Deciding to start immediately, he looked the list over. 1. Blood of a devil. Michael's feather. Blood of a god. Shard of Excalibur. Sacred gear. Dragon scales. Phoenix tears. Fenrir's fur. Vampire blood. Fallen angel blood. Seraphal's cosplay outfit. Grim Reaper blood. Regulus fur. Lucifer blood. Ibis fur. Naruto's eyes bulged as he read what Zelrich wanted. The only ones he had at hand were devil blood and phoenix tears from himself. He could probably ask Serziches for dragon scales and Seraphal for the outfit, but the rest was currently impossible for him. Thinking a moment, he decided to simply gather his first 2 peerage members. He took a vial from its shelf and gave himself a small cut, letting the blood flow into the vial. He placed the vial into the magical circle and used his magic. He disappeared in a smoke cloud. Naruto appeared in another cloud. Looking around, he saw that he was standing on top of a tower. Taking out Zelrich's compass, he saw that the screen now was active, showing a large green arrow pointing in a direction left of him. He spread his devil wings before taking off. It took a while, but eventually he arrived at a park. Flying down, he saw the person the arrow was pointing towards. It was a brown-haired young woman. She was sitting on a bench and had a bloody doctor coat around her. Even from a distance, Naruto could see 3 things. The first, her very big chest; the second was the tattoo on her forehead, and the last was the empty, almost broken look in her eyes. Naruto landed before her, and he saw her eyes widen at his wings before they started to show disinterest again. Walking before her, he again looked the woman over for any injuries. Unable to find any, he decided to come to the point. "Can you tell me what your name is, miss?" The woman looked at him with an emotionless expression before replying. "Ah, I'm Akitsu. Why are you talking to me? I'm broken." Naruto looked at the woman with a sad expression. He had already had an idea about what happened to her. "Well, Akitsu. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, a devil, and I am currently looking for members for my peerage. The compass I have been using pointed me to you, so I would like to know if you want to accompany me." Naruto could easily see the hope that blossomed in Akitsu's eyes at his words. "Ah, you want me? Even if I'm broken?" Naruto gave Akitsu a nod, and the young woman teared up. It took only a few moments before Akitsu was transformed into a devil. He felt a bit uncomfortable at the adoring look she now had in her eyes. Naruto had no doubt that she would sacrifice herself for him. If he ever asked, she was that obedient. He definitely would need to take care of her good. "You there? Go away from the scrap number, she is mine." Naruto looked at the brat that shouted at him and saw some pretty boy and a gray-haired guy with a sword. Rolling his eyes, he sent a powerful blast of magic at the pretty boy, instantly vaporizing him. He watched a bit confused as the gray-haired guy collapsed like his strings were cut. Ignoring that, he ordered Akitsu to wrap her arm around his own and then press the button on his compass. Disappearing from this world forever. Unknown to him, Akitsu's disappearance and the death of Hayato Mikagami had changed the events of this world quite a bit. But that didn't matter to him anyway. Naruto and Akitsu appeared back in his room. Making Akitsu sit down on his bed, he looked first over his clock, seeing that only an hour was over. Deciding to get his second peerage member, he quickly got his emergency vial Phoenix tears and placed them into the summoning circle. Akitsu watched worried as her new Ashikabi disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto looked around curiously. He was currently in London, or Atlasta version of London. It was clear that large parts of the city had been destroyed and rebuilt a while ago. He took out the compass and saw that it pointed behind him away from the city. Spreading his wings, he took off and flew over a forest. It took roughly 10 minutes before he arrived at a very old mansion. Looking over the entrance, he saw a quite old black and red crest. Opening the gate, he walked onto the grounds. He looked around before walking to the main entrance. He was just knocking at the door when he felt a gun opening press on the back of his head. "What do you want, little boy?" Naruto sweated a bit but calmed himself. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I am currently looking for a potential member for my peerage. I have a compass that brought me here to this mansion." There was a moment of silence before the gun disappeared. Breathing out, Naruto turned around and looked the person over. It was a buxom orange-haired woman wearing a blue uniform. He could see that she was a bit tense but had a friendly expression on her face. "Given that I am the only one living in this manor, it seems you mean me. Well, let's go to the living room to talk about it." Naruto was sitting opposite of Sarah's Victoria. They had talked quite a bit, and Naruto had been astonished to find out that she was a direct spawn of Count Dracula, or as he was also called, Alucard. Apparently Seraz had been working for an organization called Helsing to hunt vampires and other supernatural threats, but after both Alucard's and Integra's death the organization dissolved and Seraz was now the only one living in the manor. He on the other hand had told Seraz about his heritage and goals. His evil pieces and the peerage system and finally about the Devil Society. Currently he was waiting for her answer to his offer. Well, your information was quite interesting and I think serving someone again could be fun. Good, I am on board, but if you go down the wrong path I will personally end you. Naruto nodded in acknowledgement. Both Seraz and Naruto then walked behind the manor and he watched how Seraz walked towards a grave. Looking at the grave he saw the words inscribed on it. Naruto was moaning. He was currently in his bed with his shorts down while Akitsu was giving him a blowjob. It was something she did since his 14th birthday. Though they had not gone farther than that. Naruto's mother would have killed him if he lost his virginity before his marriage to Sona. So while Akitsu and Naruto were a bit sad about it, they kept some restraint. His relationship with Seraz though was a bit more distant. She kept a rather serious approach to their personal relationship, but every now and then Naruto thought he saw some shadows move while being under the shower, so he wondered if she secretly peeked on him. Today was a special day though. Naruto would be getting Seraphal's old cosplay outfit like he asked her, and he already had the dragon scales which Surziches gave him as birthday present. Which meant he would get 2 more peerage members. Walking down the stairs with Akitsu behind him he was astonished to see his mother sitting with Seraz at the table talking. Kushina Gremory was an extremely busy woman, she was one of the best lawyers in the underworld and many wanted her to represent them. She even had taken and won the Nekashu case, which resulted instead of the Nekashu being hunted and killed, they were captured and given over to the Yokai fraction in Kyoto. From what Naruto heard Yusaka had been extremely thankful for Kushina's help in keeping them alive. Unfortunately she had been unable to help Kaneko who had been under suspicion of having helped her sister, so it took Surzich's intervention to keep her alive. Kuroka of course still had a bounty on her head and aside from a rumor of her killing a group of stray hunters a year ago, she had fallen completely of the watch from the Devil Fraction. Stray hunters by the way were groups of supernaturals that hunted the defectors of various fractions for their bounties. They had members of all species in those groups and had quite a good success rate. They normally operated from so-called guilds out where the various fractions sent the updated lists for bounties. Naruto knew so much about those groups because Seraz quite often joined such people to get some fighting experience against the new supernatural enemies she would now face. Sitting down he and Akitsu made some breakfast for themselves and listened to the 2 women talking. So you say that there have been strays of all fractions fallen of the grid. How is that possible? Normally only high-class level strays are capable of doing such. At Kushina's question Naruto's grew curious. There were roughly 10,000 strays from various fractions worldwide, so if many of those disappeared, that could only mean someone was building an army. Which was definitely not good. After he had finished breakfast Naruto immediately teleported to Seraphal's castle. It was on the territory that she received along with her title as Leviathan. Waiting a moment for the maid to announce his arrival he thought again about his fiancées. He had spent much time of his childhood playing with Ravel, Sona and Riaz. Even though Riaz was officially engaged to marry Razor, they all knew it wouldn't last. While Naruto personally disliked Razor, he knew that the Phoenix was deeply in love with his queen Yubaluna and had no desire to marry Riaz. They had already made plans of Riaz and Razor playing a Ratingam against each other and if Riaz still failed Naruto would challenge Razor to a duel during the marriage ceremony. Unfortunately Razor was forced to fight with full power unless they wanted someone to call foul play, but Naruto was confident that he could defeat his older cousin. Hey, Naru-chan. Naruto was abruptly ripped from his thoughts when he was picked up and swung around with his face being pressed in something very soft and large. Looking up he saw the face of Seraphil looking at him with a mischievous grin. Hello Seraph. Nice to see you again, you said that I can have it now. Seraphil looked amused at Naruto's question. Sure, but don't do anything naughty with my outfit Naru-chan. At Seraphil's words Naruto's face got red and he stuttered a bit. Taking the cosplay outfit and giving Seraphil a warning about the possibility of someone gathering the strays he immediately took off to Uzumaki Mansion. Walking towards his room he looked for Akitsu and saw her watching some movie with Seraphil in the main role. Deciding to let her continue he left for his room and prepared the ritual again. He placed first the outfit into the circle and activated it. Naruto again appeared in a cloud of smoke. After it dispersed he curiously looked around and saw that he was in a very strange place, he was in some sort of rural village. Surrounding the place was nothing but forest and a small river. The village though had an extremely nasty and evil aura, indicating that much hatred and bloodshed happened here. Deciding to play it safe, he cast a quick but simple spell to make him invisible to non-magical people. Naruto followed the compass a while, but the signal was distorted for some reason. Naruto just was about to kidnap one of the citizens when the compass finally adjusted and pointed towards the old house a bit away from the main house. Opening the door, Naruto had to hold back a grimace. On the floor before him were two corpses. The first corpse was some strange creature looking a bit like an old man, which apparently was made into a mummy. The second corpse was of a beautiful woman who appeared to have been stabbed by countless small needles. The state of her clothes also indicated that she may have been faked. He was not sure on that. Well, shit. I had hoped that none of my peerage members would need to be resurrected from death. At least it is the woman and not that strange creature. I wonder what happened here. Anyway, time for the resurrection. Naruto quickly used one of his pawns to resurrect the woman. After he saw that she was alive again, he healed her wounds with a magic spell before teleporting back to his room. He frowned a bit, wondering if he should wait for her to awake or simply to go after the second peerage member. Given that the woman would earliest awake in a few hours, he decided to go again. Appearing in another forest, he spread his wings and took off. He flew around a bit following the compass but could not see anything interesting until he heard a scream. He looked in the direction it came from and saw a bridge in the distance. The moment he saw the bridge, he let out some curses. Hanging over the bridge railing was a man with several spears impaled into his body. Flying down, he ignored the people running away from the bridge. Instead, he took the man's corpse and laid it on the ground. Removing the spears one by one, he noticed that the man had some sort of mask over his face. He ripped the mask off and saw a rather normal-looking man with brown hair. He quickly used his third pawn on the man and was just about to take off when he saw a troop of samurai approach him. "Stop. Whoever you are, leave the Kyoga ninja here and take off. This corpse belongs to Lady Ifuku. It is her future trophy to prove her son's ascension as the next shogun." Naruto scowled at the samurai. He could understand many things, but desecrating a corpse simply out of pride. That was simply disgusting. "If you want him, come and take him." The lead samurai scowled before giving the signal for attack. Naruto didn't even flinch when the spears impaled him. Instead, he created an invisible wind blade and slashed his arm in a wide arc. A moment later, all the samurai's upper bodies crashed on the floor while the leader immediately tried to run off. He didn't make it far as Naruto simply pointed a finger at him and shot a concentrated blast of wind at him, which had similar results to a gun's bullet. The man had a hole straight through his heart and quickly crashed to the ground. Sighing, Naruto picked up his new peerage member and teleported back into his room. Seaman Kisaragi groaned in pain as he awoke. Though he was honestly surprised to wake up at all, given that his last memory was of Tenzin and those samurais killing him. Deciding to keep quiet and try to find out the situation, he used his ears to find out his surroundings. He could hear two people breathing. It could either be Kageru and Genosuke, or it could be Oboro and Tenzin Yakushiji. He opened his eyes a bit to look at his surroundings and was honestly confused. The room he was in looked nothing like the normal type of houses he had been in. "So, you are finally awake?" At the question, Seaman opened his eyes fully and looked at the person sitting beside him. It was a blonde-haired teenager with strange clothes. He certainly was not Tenzin or Oboro. "Who are you and where am I?" "Ah, yes. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and you are currently in my family's home." Seaman raised a brow. "And why did you bring me to your home? For the matter, how am I even alive?" Naruto had a somewhat sheepish look on his face. "Well, the reason you are alive is simple. I resurrected you from the death so that you could become one of my peerage members. You aren't the only one though, I got another member a short while before you." Seaman looked as the blonde boy pointed left to him. His heart almost stopped at what he saw. "Okoi?" Naruto looked interested as Seaman jumped up and looked the woman over. "You know each other? Good, I found her in some storage house and my compass said she was one of the people for my peerage." Seaman just barely listened to Naruto's words. He was more concentrated at looking his formerly death sister over. After seeing that she was really alive again, he looked at Naruto. The boy had resurrected his sister and him. For this, he would follow the boy until the end. By his honor as Koga Ninja. Secret hideout in the underworld. Inside a large fortress was a gathering of several shady individuals. Itachi Uchiha, a powerful Tengu Yakai from Kyoto, was one of these individuals. But unlike the 12 others sitting at the table, he was probably the only one who was not really part of this group. He was in fact a spy sent by Yasaka the nine-tailed fox to observe them. As he looked around, he recalled what he knew about them. Orochimaru. A ruthless snake demon who was the son of the dragon Yamata no Orochi. Urin. A powerful witch who used crystal-based magic. Zabuza Mamachi. A devil who completely wiped out one of the pillars before going rogue. Conan. An angel who believed that Michael was unworthy of being God's successor and wanted to kill him. Haiden. The leader of the cult following the mad god Jashin. Bikuzu. A very old demon who had once fought against the original Lucifer. Anzu Shimura. One of the leaders of the old Satan faction. Igura. A turtle yakai who attempted genocide on all half-breeds. Kisame. a shark yokai, Yagura's most trusted soldier. Yomi. A worshipper of the demon Moryo who once ruled China as emperor, his stone army was later found by humans. Obito Uchiha. A reincarnated devil, formerly Tengu yokai once part of Minato Phoenix peerage. And finally the leader of the group. Madara Uchiha, the first Tengu yokai in existence, son of Amana's Akko who was the daughter of the Shinto god Susanoo. Itachi looked at the group, it consisted of several of the most ruthless and dangerous people in the world. Madara with his status as half-god was actually powerful enough to take on any of the fraction's leaders and come out victorious. The same with Orochimaru, that was not even counting the group's followers that they had access to. It seems all of us have arrived now. Madara's cold and arrogant eyes looked the 12 criminals over. As you know, our plans will start soon. For those among you who haven't gotten the information yet, I will explain the plan again. At Madara's word, several of the members looked up with interest. Itachi saw that aside from himself also Kisame, Hyden and Zabuza had no knowledge of the plans yet. As you know, the biblical god sealed away the apocalypse monster Trihexa. To do this he stole some of Trihexa's power and created 18 keys. 6 keys of the body, 6 keys of the mind and 6 keys of the soul. He then hid away the keys by placing 6 keys each into souls of each of the 3 fractions. Our goal is to acquire all 18 keys and to release Trihexa again so that we may acquire its power to rule the world. Itachi barely repressed a reaction at the psychopath's words. Releasing Trihexa was simply insane, and he was even more horrified at seeing that most at the table either had neutral or eager impressions on their faces. Luckily we were already able to acquire 3 of the keys. Madara had an arrogant smirk on his face as he removed the illusion over the table, showing that it actually was a round plate with 18 holes inside it. In 3 of the holes were glowing orbs, one being colored red and the other 2 blue. If you look at the monitor behind me, you will see the people we suspect or know to be in possession of one of the keys. It is your duty to acquire them and bring them here. At Madara's words, Itachi looked at the large screen behind Madara. 12 pictures were on it. 3 were crossed out. Itachi instantly recognized those as Minato Phoenix from the Devil Fraction and 2 mid-level fallen angels called Utakata and Fuka. Looking the other 9 pictures over, he recognized 4 of them. The first was an angel working as exorcist called Temujin, the second was a devil called Yujito Nai, the third was the angel ambassador for the Yokai Fraction called Ino Yamanaka, and the last was the son of Minato Phoenix. Also, before I forget, the fate that awaits traitors is not pretty. So be careful about what you do. Looking in the direction Madara pointed, Itachi looked with sorrow as he saw Minato Phoenix inside a large pink crystal. The Phoenix had only one arm and a fist-sized hole in his chest. Itachi was honestly not sure if the Phoenix was still alive. As Itachi slowly walked out of the castle, he wondered what he should do now to blunt Madara's plot. Madara sat on his throne while watching Itachi through his familiar. He was quite amused that the young Tengu actually thought he could deceive him. Still, he would let him play around a bit, and if some of his group were killed off, well, he had more than enough. If necessary, he would simply ask Rizavum for a few more tools. Keep up your guard. Naruto grunted as a fist hit him in the face, and he crushed down. Shaking his head a bit, he looked up to his sensei Kakashi Hatake. His father's knight was his trainer since he was 5. Standing up again, he settled back into the Phonics fighting style. A style that mostly concentrated around quick and targeted strikes that were complemented with either wind or fire magic. He quickly rushed to Kakashi and tried to hit him with several strikes to the man's ribs, trying to break them, but Kakashi easily blocked them. He barely managed to evade a quick jab towards his throat, but was unable to block a strong kick right into his gut. Flying roughly 5 feet, he turned on all 4s and vomited his breakfast out. Well, I suppose that was enough for today, Naruto-kun. We will continue tomorrow. Naruto stood shakily up again. He was relieved. They had been sparring for 3 hours, and even with his healing factor he was green and blue everywhere. Say, Naruto, where are your peerage members currently? Naruto looked at Kakashi's curious face, well, actually his eye. Akitsu is currently learning ice magic from Seraphil again. Okoi is in the human world to buy herself some new clothes. Seaman is currently undercover in one of the human slave trades in Middle America to bust that operation, and Sarah Oz is off with that one fellow she met recently, Killerbee I think. Something about hunting the hero's descendant of Achilles who has been going around killing devils. Seaman and Sarah Oz often did black ops missions to hunt down sociopaths and slave traders. Naruto supported those missions. The sheer thought of someone going around spreading misery for fun or greed made him sick, so he had asked Surziches to give his peerage such missions. He wondered what they were currently doing. Look at how much money we are making with those bitches. They are making us rich. Seaman looked with a disgusted expression at those pieces of scum. He was currently wearing the disguise of a man called Eri, who had been a mercenary hired by the leader of the sex trade. The black-skinned man was currently swimming with the fishes while Seaman looked at the other slavers. The thugs aside, there were three who headed the operation. One was a hired killer called Nadaroga. The second was the businessman of the group called Hoki, and the last was the leader of the group. His name was Aoi Rakusho, a devil of the old Satan fraction, specifically a subordinate of Kateria Leviathan. The woman used him to supply her with resources for her experiments. Seaman had hoped to destroy the whole operation, but disguised as Derry, he had managed to find out that the kingpin of the mafia, a man called Gatu, was operating from somewhere else. The different branches were also divided in other parts of the world. Aside from the sex trade, Gatu also dealt in drugs, weapons, hired killers and selling hideouts to criminals. Watching how Nader left to his room and Aoi going to his office, he subtly approached Hoki, who still counted the money from their latest selling. He quickly grabbed the man, put a hand over his mouth and stabbed a kunai into his kidney. He waited a moment until he felt the man go slack. Slowly lowering the man to the floor, he pressed quick on a button which caused two explosions. The first being the mercenaries' main room where most of them were currently drinking and drugging, the second being Nader's room. Directly upon the explosion, Aoi stormed out of his office carrying a light sword which the angels and exorcists used. Seeing him standing above Haka's corpse, Aoi stormed towards him and swung his sword, but Seaman quickly evaded and used Derry's weapon to hit Aoi. The green-haired man tried to evade, but the strike still hit him and Aoi's left arm fell to the ground. "Arg. You bastard, I will kill you for this. You will pay for what you have done to my operation." Seaman completely ignored the screaming man's threats and simply swung his sword again. This time Aoi's head rolled from his shoulders. Seeing several thugs coming into the room, he cast some fire magic which hit the men and burned them to ash. He slowly walked through the hideout, weeding out the remaining thugs and freeing the slaves. Unfortunately, as he came to the charred entrance of Nader's room, he noticed that the killer escaped his trap. Still, he had eliminated the group and he got enough intel for the next few missions. Deciding to end the mission, he walked out of the hideout before pressing another button. This time the whole hideout exploded. Naruto let out a yawn as he sat up in his bed. He gave a small glance at the sleeping form of Akitsu pressed at his side. She almost spent every night sleeping in his bed, and Naruto would be lying if he said that he didn't like it. Thinking about his peerage, he frowned at his difficulties at expanding it. The fallen angel blood would normally have been easy to acquire, but with the rogues disappearing, he had been unable to procure some. The vampire blood, on the other hand, was simply bad luck. Asper was a damper and devil hybrid, so his blood was useless. Saraz, on the other hand, was not from this dimension, so her blood didn't count either. The other things were even more difficult to get his hands on. No matter. He and his peerage had something important to do today. Apparently someone had been sending threats to the leader of the Kyoto faction. Naruto's peerage was one of the groups who had accepted to work as her bodyguards. Because of this, he had recalled Okoi, Seaman, Saraz and Akitsu for this mission. It would certainly be dangerous. Naruto and his friends arrived at Kikyo Castle at lunchtime. He was currently looking over the other guards which were hired by Yasaka. Due to his extensive use of the Devil's Intelligence Network, Naruto had at least basic knowledge about many players of the different factions. The first group was made of two people. One of them he identified as a devil called Amaeri Ringo, a ruthless fighter who was among the top 10 swordsmen of the devil faction. The other he suspected was called Chijuro, a devil who just a month ago achieved mid-class and worked for the high-class devil Mei Terumi. The next was a lone woman with green and orange hair. He had heard descriptions of her. The witch Pikura, who used her scorch magic to defeat her enemies. The third group was made up of three blonde people. They were exorcists called Samui and Atsui. The last was a lone eagle demon from the Hyuga clan. If Naruto's information was correct, it was the Hyuga or Niji Hyuga. Naruto noted with some amusement how his peerage sized up the others. Seaman especially looked as if he was thinking about how to eliminate the others if necessary. "Excuse me. If you could give me your attention." At those words, Naruto looked at the man speaking. It was a tanned man with a scar across his face and wearing a samurai armor. "If I may introduce myself. I'm Haruki Yamino, captain of the Royal Guard, and it was I who hired you as additional reinforcements to protect Yasaka-sama. Please follow me to your rooms." The hired mercenaries all followed the captain until they reached a big room with a buffet laid out on a table. Deciding to first plan his group's way of action, he and his peerage sat down at a corner of the room. Just as they wanted to begin, though, someone else approached. "Excuse me. Is your name Naruto Uzumaki?" Naruto looked at the witch Pikura before replying. "Yes, it is." Pikura gave a small smile. "That is good. I have heard of you quite a bit. Your peerage's exploits have made quite the waves. Well, my name is Pikura and I have a request. I would like to become your contracted mage and wanted to use this mission to meet you." Naruto listened to Pikura's words with intrigue. Many high-class devils had contracts with mages or witches to help them. Bakura was no Mephisto, but she was definitely one of the stronger ones who were willing to join up with a devil. Very well. If you manage to survive this mission we can talk about making a contract. But let's first eat something. With those words the group approached the food table. Unknown to Naruto, a certain eagle demon watched the group with a look of disdain. Hidden in a safe house in the northern part of Kyoto currently stood 9 shadowed people. So, the plan will start tonight. What about the hired bodyguards, do we dispose of them? The largest of the shadows looked at a shadow sitting on a couch. It doesn't matter. We will kill those fuckers anyway. The larger shadow looked at the cursing shadow with some disdain. Well, it certainly will be an interesting game. So why don't we have some fun? Those words were spoken by a strange 6-armed shadow. But don't forget. Yusaka must be killed. Her death will be the first step to the eradication of Amaterasu, Tsukiyomi and Susanoo. For Orochimaru-sama and Yamada no Orochi-sama. We will not fail. At the words of the last shadow all the others instantly stiffened and nodded their heads. Good, we attack tonight. We will take no prisoners. Naruto-sama, they are attacking now. At Sera's words Naruto opened his eyes and stood up. Good, are they all on position? Sera's nodded at his question. Then let's go. At that word Naruto drew his katana and stabbed it through the paper door. The reaction was a pained scream as his sword stabbed through one of the thugs standing before the door. Before they could react Naruto crashed through the door and swung in a wide arc bisecting the thugs. Looking at the 4 dead bodies he easily saw that they were all Oni demons. The Oni were one of the few races who openly went against Yusaka, so that didn't surprise him, though they normally only did their own thing like killing and eating humans, instead of attempting to assassinate their ruler. Walking through the castle he every now and then met up with either guards or attackers. He was so far disappointed with the assassins, as most of them were just low-rent thugs. Finally he arrived at a scene that made his blood boil. The 3 exorcists Samui, Atsui and C were lying on the ground in puddles of blood. He quickly dashed towards the bodies and took out his phonics tears. Looking them over he saw that Atsui was clearly dead. His throat was slitted open and his eyes were glassy. But C and Samui were still alive, so he poured some tears down their throat and watched with relief how their wounds healed. Looking around he saw a bloody footprint pointing down the way. Standing up he quickly ran in the direction hoping to pursue the invader. Ha, oh how I love this carnage. I simply can't get enough of it. Standing laughing in the middle of nearly 20 dead or maimed guards was one of the commanders of the castle. The tiger demon Mizuki had long waited for this day where he could kill that fool Iruka and that damn tease Yusaka. How she would pay for daring to reject a powerful male like him. Laughing he looked around until he saw a very busty beautiful woman covering in a corner of the courtyard. Giving a cruel and lecherous smirk he slowly stalked towards the terrified woman. Well bitch. Looks like you have the honor of serving me today. Looking the woman over Mizuki didn't recognize her but simply blew it off as her being a new servant girl. Grabbing the woman he held her arms at the wall behind her while using his other hand to grope her big breasts. So driven by his lust was he that Mizuki didn't notice how the so-called servant girl no longer had a terrified look on her face, but instead a cruel smirk. It was only after he tried to remove his hand from her breast that he noticed that something was wrong. What's the matter, didn't you want to have some fun? Okoi looked on with a smug smirk how the powerful tiger demon dropped on his knees, already half dead from having his blood sucked out. She watched remorseless how the would-be rapist slowly shriveled up into a mummy. Only after he was completely dry did she release her hold on the traitor. Stalking off Okoi started to look for another target. Bakura grimaced a bit as she dodged another boulder thrown at her from the orange-haired Oni. The muscle-head which she heard some of his subordinates call Jirobo had been throwing boulders into the castle from afar when she tried to eliminate him. Since then they were in a stalemate, though between inaccurate thrown boulders and her scorch magic all of his thugs had been killed by now. Finally she noticed her enemy grow tired a bit. Immediately she raced towards him, evaded his strikes at her, and slammed one of her sons into him. Powering it fully up she watched how Jirobo first dried up but eventually was turned into a pile of ash. Hearing a large explosion she quickly headed to the castle again. Saraz grinned a bit. After telling Naruto about the attack she had taken up a sniper position on the roof of the castle, but she was not the only one. A spider demon with a bow was on another roof and they tried to snipe each other since then. Sure, she could have used shadow travel to end the fight but it was too much fun. Since the Millennium incident she had no decent fight anymore. Even the targets she pursued on her missions were mostly disappointing so far. Being either too arrogant or weak to pose a challenge. This guy though calculated her moves and tried to find ways to take her down. She sweat dropped though as suddenly something blew up the building the man was standing on. That was until a severed arm fell from the sky onto her head and she started to curse whoever had blown up the building. Did Jiro watch out? Adamaris warning. The glasses-wearing swordsman quickly dropped down as several bone bullets flew through where his head had been. The two swordsmen were currently behind the castle, fighting a very strange man who pulled his own bones out to use them as swords. It was only because of Amara's skill and experience that they could withstand the ruthless swordsman. But they were slowly pushed back. You two should cease your futile resistance. I possess the power of Lord Orochimaru, and you cannot hope to surpass my power. At Kimimro's cold and aloof words, Amari gritted her teeth but hated to admit that he was right. Still, just before she could make a final attack, she watched with shock how suddenly the whole forest area turned into a world of ice. What is this trickery? Kimimro looked angered at his surroundings before seeing a very busty woman wearing a quite indecent outfit with chains. Deciding to kill her, Kimimro tried to run towards her but slipped on the icy ground. He didn't even manage to stand up again before the ice crept up his body. Kimimro could only watch helpless as he was encased in an icy tomb. Akitsu only watched her master's enemy being encased in her ice. The man was extremely dangerous, but with her slippery ice taking his mobility away and taking advantage of his surprise, the fight was over before it began. She slowly walked back to her beloved Ashikabi-sama, completely ignoring the odd and in the case of Amari Julius look she received from the two devils. Seaman currently walked around in the disguise of a man called Yoroi. A leech demon which he surprised and killed 10 minutes ago. Yoroi, there you are. Didn't you hear? We need to go to Seiken and Yukin to reinforce the group who prepares the bomb. Seaman Yoroi looked at the nerdish-looking man with glasses and nodded. The man smiled and turned his back towards him, which would be his last mistake as he immediately a kunai into his back. The bomb? They must have it hidden in one of the warehouses if it is big enough for them to want to use it on the castle. Seaman quickly ran towards the side houses. He arrived before the door of one of the warehouses and opened it a bit. Looking in, he saw a group of thugs standing around a quite large explosive. The leaders of the group were two tall oni with a single horn on top of their heads each. He quickly calculated the bomb's explosion range, as assassin he read up on all types of weapons currently existing, before he decided that the explosion, while powerful, would not reach the main house. Seaman smirked at that. Drawing a gun he had borrowed from Saraz, he shot a bullet at the explosive before running back to the main house. It was only thanks to his superhuman speed that he managed to leave the range of the bomb in time. Behind him, the warehouse was a pile of burning debris. The terrorists were without doubt all dead, so Seaman removed Yorwa's face before walking back into the castle. Naruto quickly dashed into the throne room before stopping at seeing the cloaked person before him. The man turned around, allowing Naruto to see his face. It was a white-haired glasses-wearing man who looked so boring that Naruto probably would have overlooked him on the streets. Oh my. It seems someone managed to catch up to me. It is a shame that I will need to kill you now, boy. Especially given that Yusaka is apparently no longer in this castle. I only managed to find this fool trying to disguise as her. At Kabuto's words, Naruto looked behind him to see the broken form of Iruka Yamino on the ground. This moment had been all Kabuto waited for as Naruto felt his throat suddenly slitted. Coughing out blood, Naruto glared at Kabuto while his throat healed again. Damn, are you a phoenix? No matter, I wanted one of you for my studies anyway. Kabuto again stormed at Naruto with his energy blades trying to disable him, but Naruto quickly evaded several strikes. Encasing his fist with wind, he thrusted it in Kabuto's direction and watched how the killer was blasted backwards into a wall. Following up, Naruto used a spell called Wind Lance, grabbing it and throwing it at Kabuto. He watched with satisfaction as the killer was nailed to the wall through his shoulder. He grew uneasy though as Kabuto, instead of screaming, started to smirk and laugh. Well, you are quite impressive, boy. Still, this body has only 10% of my true power, so compared to myself, it was expected to be destroyed easily. But you caught my interest, we will definitely meet again. After Kabuto said those words, Naruto watched how the killer slumped over, and after Naruto cancelled his spell, fell to the ground. Approaching the corpse, he turned it over and searched it a bit. He quickly detected the mask and removed it, finding a completely different face. Damn, so the real leader was not stupid enough to come himself. Well, I should gather my peerage and the other survivors. It was early the next morning that the remaining hired bodyguard sat before Iruka Yamino. The man had one arm in a sling and listened to the report Naruto gathered from the survivors. Of the 120 guards of the castle, 58 are still alive. Dead invaders were counted at 82. We counted 8 dead leaders. Among them was the traitor Mizuki, who gave them the way to go around the barriers. The only escaped invader seems to be the white-haired man who attacked you, Iruka-san. But most importantly is that the bone-using swordsman admitted that they worked for Orochimaru. Aside from this, there is the loss of Exorcist Atsui and the disappearance of Niji, who got a note. That would be all. Iruka nodded at the report. Personally, he was heartbroken at the many unnecessary deaths, which included his former friend Mizuki. Still, he had his duties to do. Very well. First let me express my condolences in regards to Atsui-san's death. I'm sure he will be greatly missed from many. On another note, I want to thank all of you for accepting this mission, and Yosaka Dono assured me that should you have any requests that she will do her best to fulfill them. At Iruka's words, Samui looked down at her brother's death. C also looked dejected. Amayuri and Chijuro didn't care much, but they both threw some glances towards Akitsu. I would have a request, Iruka-san. At Naruto's words, Iruka looked at him. Very well. What can we do for you, Uzumaki Dono? I am looking for several things of interest. One of those is Kyuubi fur. I would be very grateful if Yosaka Dono would give me a sample. Iruka looked a bit confused at the strange request. Kyuubi fur was rare, sure, but it didn't have any magical attributes he knew of. That is possible, Naruto-san. We will be sending the sample to Surzich's Dono along with the payment. Well, that would be all for today. I again thank you for your assistance. Niji Hyuga looked with a bored look at the darkroom Kabuto Yakushi led him. His eyes fell on the person he wanted to meet. So, you want my help in removing Yosaka, boy? Niji frowned at the lowly peasant's words. He should be honored to help the Hyuga clan to reach their fate at the top of the Yokai nation. Indeed. Now let us talk about our plans, Orochimaru-san. Fukuku. Orochimaru let out a pleasant chuckle at the arrogant noble's words. The boy had no idea that he was making a pact with a demon. Literally in his case. Naruto suppressed a yawn as he stood in the middle of a group of students which were listening to Kuo Academy's headmaster. The speech of the man was so utterly boring that Naruto just barely managed to not fall asleep. Deciding to look around, he found some interesting things. Rias and her peerage were standing rather near the front. Naruto found it a bit sad that Gasper was unable to attend school properly, but Atlas the crossdresser was allowed to send his tests through Rias to the teachers. Sona and her peerage were also present. Though for some strange reason Sona had suddenly decided to change her name into Sana Shitori. Neither he nor Rias had bothered to do the same, which angered her a bit, saying they were irresponsible. Looking at the teachers, he had to suppress a smile. While neither Saraz, Akitsu or Seaman showed interest in joining school, he had been surprised when Okoi had decided to take over as physical education teacher. Given her profession as ninja, she had great knowledge on how to train the body to peak condition. Deciding to further look around, he saw a sight that utterly disgusted him. A male brown-haired first-year student was crouched down behind a female student, trying to look under her skirt while having a lecherous expression on his face. Naruto glared at the pervert. Such behavior was utterly pathetic and against everything his mother had taught him. Being affectionate with your girlfriend was one thing, or even looking at a girl's beauty, but literally breaking their privacy like that was despicable. He growled a bit before taking a coin from his pockets. Taking aim, he shot the coin directly at the boy's ass. The boy jumped into the air and yelled while grabbing his butt. The surrounding students looked at the boy as if he was insane. Giving a small smirk, Naruto walked off now that the speech was done. What did he do to deserve this? Naruto was sure he must have somehow angered a deity somewhere. In his class was not only the perverted brat from before, which he now knew was called Issei Haidu, but also two other perverts who all three were talking loudly about the breasts and butts of the girls in the school. Almost worse in Naruto's opinion was that girl like Kiryu, who was literally drawling while for some reason looking at his crotch area. He shuddered at the fact that he would need to spend 3 years with those four. Anyway, he still needed to decide which club he would join for this year. He was leaning towards the Kendo club. Kakashi had taught him the white lightning sword style which he and his father Sakumo were using. It was a true shame that much of the style died with Sakumo's death at the hands of Rizavam Lucifer during the Great War. Hearing the bell ringing, Naruto stood up and walked to the old school building which Rias took over for her peerage. The building was a bit old in style, but also still in good condition. Opening the door to the room, Naruto saw that the occult research club was already completely there. Kaneko was sitting on the couch eating some chocolate while Kiba sat beside her drinking some tea. Akeno was standing beside Rias, who was sitting before a chessboard. Taking the seat opposite of Rias, he smiled at her before moving his pawn. It has been a while, Rias-chan. Rias smiled at her cousin softly. She had indeed not seen Naruto for a year now. Between her attending her first year at school and his own schedule, there had not been much time for them to meet. Responding with moving her own pawn, she looked at him. True, you have grown quite a bit during that year. Anything new to tell me? Naruto smirked at her before moving his knight. Indeed. I had a meeting with cousin Saraerg. Apparently he managed to acquire the Longinus Regulus Nemia for himself. I was looking into getting some of Regulus fur. Thankfully Saraerg gave me some of it in exchange for fighting his peerage when I managed to reach 10 pieces. Rias lifted an eyebrow. Most would not want to fight their battle-loving cousin, but given that Naruto was somewhat similar in that regard, she was not really surprised. Really? Well, that means you will be getting 2 new peerage members soon. Naruto chuckled a bit before moving his bishop. No. I will first recruit one and then work on integrating that person into the team before recruiting the other. Though if it interests you, I found a familiar for myself while visiting the familiar forest. Riaz and her peerage perked up. Naruto was known to be extremely picky in regards to his familiar. He had visited the forest 28 times in his life and never found a familiar he liked. Naruto merely smiled before using a summoning circle. In a poof of smoke a very beautiful bird appeared. The bird let out a thrill, and immediately all 5 people in the room felt a surge of protectiveness and safety in their hearts. If I may introduce. This is my familiar, the Phoenix Fox. I found him inside the familiar forest on my last visit and we befriended each other. Fox sat himself down on Naruto's shoulder and seemed to look Riaz and her peerage over before giving a satisfied sound. Riaz and her peerage on the hand looked astounded at the beautiful bird. You really got a Phoenix as your familiar. Damn, with your heritage as Phoenix that will give your reputation in their clan a huge boost. They practically worship those. Naruto chuckled a bit. It was true that the Phoenix clan had a huge obsession with the immortal bird. Their powers were actually remnants of the first Phoenix being given those powers from the biblical god who had wanted to experiment in alternate ways to create sacred gears. Yeah, I was extremely lucky to find Fox. By the way, Riaz, checkmate. But those words Naruto stood up and left while Riaz looked disbelieving at the chessboard in front of her. Akeno looked at Riaz with a teasing smile. Bara, it seems as if you should concentrate more on learning to multitask. Riaz merely pouted in response. Standing inside his room, Naruto looked at his summoning circle. Inside the circle was the fur of Regulus which he had decided to use first. He like before activated the circle and vanished in a cloud of smoke. As he appeared in the other world he curiously looked around. He was in some type of dark city, not a single person was in sight though. In the distant sky he saw something which utterly confused Naruto. Floating in the sky was a giant white castle, above it was a strange heart-shaped moon in the sky. Naruto frowned as he looked at the moon. It radiated a very strange form of energy, though right now it was not much. Looking at his compass, Naruto saw that it pointed in the direction of the castle. He tried to take off and fly to the castle when he suddenly needed to evade strange white creatures wielding lances which flew in the air. Naruto cursed when he saw that there were suddenly other creatures wearing strange jumpsuits or looking like samurai. Naruto looked at the him surrounding creatures with annoyance before he let a manic grin show on his face. He summoned his katana and pointed it at the creatures. Bring it on. We have an invader in the world that never was. The lower nobodies cannot defeat him, so one of you will need to dispose of him. In a white room with 13 thrones was a gathering of several dark-cloaked people. The leader, a dark-skinned man called Xemnas, looked at his subordinates. With several members on missions, there were only 9 of the 14 members available. Looking over his servants, Xemnas was unsure which he should send on this mission. Who should he send? Zigbur, Zaldin, Vexen, Lexius, Zekshan, Sakes, Demix, Marluxi and Larxene were the members at the castle. The other 4, Axel, Luxord, Roxas and Xion, were still on missions. He thought a bit before deciding to make sure and send several members. Zaldin and Lexius, you 2 will go. The 2 greater nobodies looked at their leader before nodding and disappearing through their dark portals. Seeing this, Xemnas also used it and appeared on his altar. It took only a few moments before his most trusted subordinates appeared before him. Well, it seems someone has managed to find us somehow. What do you think we should do, Xemnas? Xemnas merely looked at his beloved Kingdom Hearts before answering to both Sakes and Zigbur. In the end it doesn't matter. The only members truly necessary are the Keyblade users and us 3. The plan can easily be modified to use other resources. Sakes and Zigbur merely had cruel smirks on their faces. All 3 men's eyes glowed an ominous yellow. Naruto looked bored as he slashed another of the samurai-looking creatures apart and watching it dissolve into nothing. He had at the beginning thought it would be difficult, but after seeing them all use the same abilities based on their appearance, quickly removed any challenge. So far he had killed almost 200 of those things. Walking slowly closer to his goal, Naruto arrived at a huge open place with a big tower. He immediately felt suspicious at the place, it was perfect for a huge-scale battle. Moving slowly towards the tower, he was not even surprised when 2 black holes appeared before him and 2 black-clothed men stepped out of them. The moment he saw them, Naruto knew that those guys were fighters. Both had large frames with a decent amount of muscles. The auburn-haired one was especially heavy-muscled, but the one with the dreadlocks was not shabby either. So, you are the invader? I didn't expect a kid to make such a huge issue. What do you want here? At the dreadlock guy's question, Naruto looked at him. am looking for a person which I want to recruit. My compass has pointed me towards the castle floating behind you. If you would do me the favor and not stick your noses into my business, we can keep things peacefully. Zaldin and Lexius both frowned at the boy's words. So the boy had most likely no idea about the organization, the nobodies or Kingdom Hearts. Still, now that he found them, they would need to kill him. Lexaeus and Xaldin both gathered their power, and their weapons appeared in their hands. Xaldin had his 6 lances called Lindworm and Lexaeus wielded his axe sword called Skysplitter. Seeing their weapons, Naruto quickly looked at his compass. Noting that it didn't point towards either of the two men, he sighed before grabbing his katana. Naruto barely had time to evade Lexaeus' powerful strikes. Seeing one hit connect with the ground and causing a huge rupture in it, he let out a loud curse. One direct hit would probably almost kill him, and he was not eager to find out if these people may be capable of killing him. Feeling a change in the air above him, Naruto jumped to the side and saw a blast of air hit the ground where he just had been. Looking above, Naruto let out a curse. Riding on his lances, which took on the vague form of a dragon, was Xaldin. He quickly jumped back again as another blast of air was shot into his direction, only to scream in pain as a powerful hit in the back caused him to fly into a wall. Dropping to the ground, he gritted his teeth as his snapped spine rapidly healed itself. Standing up again, Naruto growled. It was a good tactic, the swordman attacking him from the ground and taking his attention, while the wind user flew in the air and jumped at every opportunity he gave him. The tactic showed that those two had very good teamwork. Unfortunately, they had ignored one scenario in their battle. With a grin, Naruto showed his wings and took to the air. Both men were shocked at their enemy's ability to fly. Using their shock, Naruto managed to quickly fly near Xaldin. The nobody managed to gather himself and quickly shot several blasts of air at Naruto, but the wind-using devil simply evaded and reached Xaldin. Xaldin barely managed to dissolve his lances apart and used them to block his katana. Still, Naruto kept up his attack until Xaldin tried to gather distance. Naruto merely chanted a strong lightning spell and overloaded it with his magic before shooting it at Xaldin. The nobody just had the time to open his eyes wide in shock before the superpowered lightning bolt hit him, and in a big blast his body vanished in a big explosion. Landing on the ground, Naruto used his wind magic to speed up his movement and in a flash appeared behind Lexaeus, who just got over his shock of seeing his partner getting killed. Feeling a huge amount of pain, Lexaeus looked down and saw the blade of Naruto's katana stabbed through his chest. How? Those words were the only things Lexaeus said before he dissolved into nothing. Naruto merely looked around before sheathing his katana again and continuing towards the castle. Xaldin and Lexaeus are dead. Their graves at the proof of existence are deactivated. What do you think we should do now, Lord Xemnas? At Zection's words, the other members looked at Xemnas. Zection took some time to bepize the remaining members. Demyx looked scared, Sakes was expressionless like always, Zigbur looked serious for once, Vexen was disinterested, Marluxia and Larxene though worried him. Both had malicious looks in their eyes. Those two were definitely up to something. Zection was a naturally careful person and spent most of his time looking for threats. Marluxia and Larxene were definitely threats. It seems like the intruder has entered the castle. All of you, make sure that he never reaches the altar of Kingdom Hearts. Eliminate him at all cost. At Xemnas' words, all the members nodded before teleporting out of the room. In Marluxia's private room, the pink-haired assassin and his partner Larxene were smirking at their good fortune. Perfect. With Xaldin and Lexaeus dead, we only need to dispose of Xemnas, Zigbur, Vexen, Zection and Sakes, then the organization is ours. Larxene was smirking at Marluxia's words. True, a better opportunity won't come. We originally wanted to use a Keyblade user, but now we can do it ourselves. Indeed. Larxene, you eliminate Vexen and I take down Sakes. Zigbur is most likely after the intruder and Zection won't make a move yet. Demyx doesn't matter at all, so if we are fast we can eliminate them and then attack Xemnas when they are dead. Marluxia and Larxene laughed cruelly before teleporting out of the room. After they were gone, Zection let his illusionary cloak drop. He looked thoughtfully at the now empty place. Should he warn the other members? Zection was no fool, he still remembered how Xehanort had turned Enzo and the others into Heartless, which resulted in his creation. Not to mention how Zigbur and Sakes were closely working together with Xemnas was suspicious. In the end it wouldn't matter anyway, while Larxene was stronger than Vexen, there was no chance of Marluxia defeating Sakes. Their little coup would fail no matter what. Vexen was a vain man. In his own opinion, he was the greatest mind ever born, his intelligence was why he constantly tried to improve himself and learn new things. This had allowed him to be the first to learn how to control their powers as nobodies. From creating dark portals and smelling the darkness inside the hearts of others to the materialization of their weapons and elements. While he was not the strongest fighter, he made it up by fully mastering everything he knew. That was the only reason he managed to call up his shield Frozen Pride in time to block the kunai thrown at him. I always knew that we should not trust the new members. You people never showed the proper amount of respect to your seniors. Larxene let out a snort at Vexen's arrogant talk. Well, you should have done something about us if you didn't trust us. But given that you are nothing but Xemnas' little bitch, I doubt anyone would have listened to you anyway. Now it is time to die. But those words, Larxene re-summoned her kunais and with lightning coating her, she lunged at Vexen. The scientist easily managed to block Larxine's attacks in the beginning. With an angry snarl, Larxine used her lightning to quickly teleport herself into Vexen's blind spots and managed to gain several hits at him. Vexen merely frowned before giving an arrogant smirk. Quickly the entire ground of his laboratory was coated in a sheet of ice which caused Larxine to slip and hit the ground. Using his advantage, Vexen quickly used the ice spell to send large ice shards at the female nobody. That's enough. Larxine angrily gritted her teeth while holding her arm, which had been impaled with a large ice shard, making it useless. She had badly underestimated the scientist, but she would not lose. With a roar of rage, Larxine summoned a massive amount of lightning before shooting it at Vexen. No, don't. Vexen evaded the lightning attack from Larxine, only to look on terrified as the lightning hit his replica creator and other sensitive things. In a strange sense of calm, Vexen saw how the apparatus first sparked violently before exploding in a giant explosion. The explosion, easily felt by all people inside the castle, left Vexen's lab in ruins. There was nothing left from neither the scientist nor the traitorous nobody. In another place, Marluxia was in a violent battle against Sakes. The berserker easily blocked his attacks and violently swung his claymore around. Marluxia, on the other hand, used graceful Dahlia to slowly cause more and more wounds to appear at Sakes' body. It was just as Marluxia had managed to stab the tip of his scythe into Sakes' right arm that the entire castle was shaken and the distant sound of an explosion was heard. Both nobodies were distracted for a moment before continuing their battle. After several minutes of battle, finally came the point where Sakes fell to his knees. Far too injured to continue the battle. With a victorious smirk on his face, Marluxia made his final attack only to stumble and scream in pain as a laser bolt hit him in the back. Did you really think we would let you live for your betrayal? As if. Marluxia growled at Zigbur, who stood several feet behind him. His arrow gun still pointed at the graceful assassin, all while having a smug grin on his face. With a curse, Marluxia used a dark portal to disappear from the room. Naruto looked around in the room he arrived in. He had since arriving in the castle fought only white creatures, this time holding large claymores or creating strange cubes made from magic. Currently he was in a large room with several upper floors visible. He just debated if he should simply fly upwards when a dark hole opened up before him and an injured pink-haired man stumbled out of it. The man only looked at him before growling and using his scythe to try to kill him. Naruto quickly flew up before summoning a large fireball which he sent towards the man, who in a scream vanished in the flames. What the hell did that guy want? That was a traitor to our organization. His name was Marluxia, if it interests you. Naruto looked curiously at the silver-haired man before him. He threw a quick look at his compass and smirked when it pointed at the young man. So you are the person I was looking for. Can you tell me your name? Section lifted his eyebrow in interest. So this boy had been looking for him. Deciding to get some information, he answered him. My name is Section, number Vi of the organization Shi, and I'm called the Cloak Schemer. What do you want from me? Naruto smiled at Section. If I may introduce myself. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I'm a devil. Currently I'm looking for members for my peerage and my compass tells me that you are one of my potential peerage members. Section let out a small hum while thinking about this new information. The boy wanted to recruit him into his own group. The organization was finished as far as he was concerned, with all the dead members lost. Zemna's power base was destroyed. He also had no doubt that eventually Axel, Roxas and Xion would go rogue. Their friendship would no doubt cause them to question Zemna's. The decision was clear. Very well. I will join your peerage. How will we go about it? Naruto grinned at him. He drew his bishop piece from his pocket and placed it at Section's chest. After Section's transformation was over, he was shocked. He could hear his heartbeat, which meant he was no longer a nobody. Let's go, Section. Section nodded at his new leader's words. He grabbed Naruto's shoulder and both disappeared from this world. From above, Zigbur growled at Section's betrayal. He had followed Marluxia to the Hall of Empty Melodies to kill him, only to see another member betray the group. He would need to report this to Zemna's immediately. It was 6 hours later that all the remaining members bar Xion were gathered in the throne room. Axel looked at the pitiful remnants of the organization Shi. Of the higher nobodies, only Zemna's, Zigbur, Sakes, Axel himself, Demyx, Luxord, Roxas and Xion remained. All others were dead at this point. What should he do now? Section panted in exhaustion. He had been trained by Naruto-sensei Kakashi in the basic devil abilities since he arrived. He was astonished how many abilities he had managed to learn. He could probably defeat any member bar Zemna's now. The bishop piece used on him also made his illusions far stronger than before. It was now almost impossible to escape his weapon, the Book of Retribution, so powerful were his abilities now. Still, he was confused about his new life. Officially, he had been the number 3 of the organization through his mission success, but he knew about Zemna's secret meetings with Zigbur and Sakes. He had portrayed himself as loyal, but the truth was that he simply had no other alternative to the organization until Naruto appeared. Now he could do whatever he wanted as long as he was loyal to Naruto. He had already taken the job of librarian at Kuo Academy to read up on this new world. On the side he had fulfilled a few missions already. One in particular had him assassinating a group of rapist devils who regularly kidnap human girls for their pleasure. From the few informations he got from the group, they were connected to air from one of the pillars. The man had the nickname Nun Collector from the few documents he got his hands on. Ending his break, he again summoned a fireball which he shot at Kakashi. Naruto and Seaman looked at Section from the balcony of the Uzumaki compound. It had been 2 months since Section joined up and his training was almost finished now. "What do you think, Seaman?" Seaman let out a small hum before answering. He is quite competent. His experience as member of Organization Shi has made him a strong fighter and tactician. He will be very valuable on missions and raiding games. What is with the Razor situation, by the way? The clan heads are pushing for the marriage already. Razor and Surziches managed to stall them for now, but it will take a year at most until things start to roll. But more important is the string of disappearances of faction members. Did you hear that the exorcist Temujin was found dead recently? Something is going on and I managed to find someone connected to it. Specifically the demon Zob Uzumamachi. We will be hunting him down soon. I want you to ready the peerage for this. Seaman let out a nod before walking off. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.